every one of us in here will, or has thought about taking the ACT so they could apply to colleges, scholarships, or even grades. ACT scores should not define how smart you are as a student. It should not be the determiner in how much scholarship money a student receives so you can afford your college education. Some students are just not good test takers, and for them, the ACT can weigh them down when they apply to scholarships and colleges, but changes can be made and equal opportunity can be made for all students. The ACT cannot prove how smart a student is, and it can really weigh down on students when they apply to different scholarships and colleges. 1 point can be the determiner in how much scholarship money a student receives, or even if they get a college acceptance letter. For example, Mizzou has a starting acceptance rate at a 24 ACT score. Most colleges determine how much scholarship money they give out by having their ACT scores and your GPA together. From ACT.org, it says, Missouri's average ACT score is a 21.7 out of 50,000 students who took it in 2015. The U.S. national average was a 21.0 out of 1.9 million students who took it in 2015. From News Journal Online, if you will refer to your handout now, the Brilliant Future Scholarship has raised their standards for the Medallion Scholarship from a 20 to a 26 ACT score, making it harder for students to apply or even receive this scholarship. Some students are just even bad test takers. They feel pressured and they know how much their score means when they apply to colleges or even to different scholarships. Patricia Muzinski says, students who are amazing in their classes but freeze when it comes to the SAT or ACT because they know how much is riding on their scores. For these students who do have good GPAs but poor test scores, merit age is usually lessened or not offered at all. And this is from US News. Patricia is even a student counselor at a high school. And if you can flip your handouts over. This is a need that must be reached out in order for this to change. Students can show more of their academic side rather than more of their testing side by sending in their transcripts, which can show more of their work ethic. And with this, students can send in a student resume that students can put on their academic achievements as well as their extracurricular activities, so the scholarship awarders can see what kind of student they're handling. Also, it can show the student's strengths and weaknesses. And US News says that schools should make the standardized test optional or even have a more curriculum-based test so the scholarship awarders can better understand the student's academic career. With this, equal opportunity can be equal for all students, and it's not limited to just the students who have a good ACT score. Now with the plan as important in detail as this, it must be carried out correctly for it to be effective for future students. Students could either benefit from this or the problem could remain the same. If we do not carry out this correctly, then it could have the same flaws as the ACT has now. Grades without adequate context aren't much use either because of the radical differences in the way grades are used from school to school and even teacher to teacher. And this is quoted from Bruce Park off of US News. What this is saying is that grades can be irrelevant if they do not have the support. So that's why they would send in their student resumes. If this is carried out correctly, students can have more opportunity to apply for their schooling and also scholarships. Even you can take action starting now to not let a test define how smart you are as a student to the awarders and also people who accept you into college. Students whose test scores do not measure up to their academic performances would certainly seem to benefit from these test optional policies, and this is from Forbes. So if you feel like you do not have an ACT score that measures up to how smart you feel you are, then you can apply to a test optional school. And these schools tend to be more diverse in their students, and they also tend to distrust the standardized testing. ACT scores should not define how smart you are as a student, and it should not be the determiner of how much scholarship money you get so you can afford your college education. Some students are just not good test takers, and for them, the ACT can weigh a lot on them when they're applying for scholarships and colleges. But changes can be made, and equal opportunity can be made for all students. Maybe now you too can understand why the ACT should be irrelevant to college application and scholarship processes. It is not a test that defines how smart you are as a student. It's you who defines who you are.
All right, any questions at this time, please?
Okay, well, not all students are good test takers. In general, do you think that a good ACT score is a good indicator of college aptitude or readiness?
I think it could be. I mean, some students are just better test takers than others, and they could be smarter than other students, but just because they're smarter doesn't mean they're more college ready.
Okay, then do you think a bad ACT score can indicate poor college aptitude or readiness?
I don't think if you get a bad score, that doesn't mean you're not determined to do well in college. Then it's like a score doesn't define who you are. Grace?
If colleges change the way they do things, like looking at the students' grades, what will that do to kids who have below average grades but usually score high on like tests?
Well, then that's why they would look at the student resume, so then they can see what kind of student they're handling. And so if they have bad grades but they're good, like they have a lot of good extracurricular achievements, then they see that they're obviously doing well in other things rather than school, and so then they compare the two.
Could you possibly have a bias in this topic because you are dissatisfied with a previous score you have on your ACT?
I personally am not dissatisfied with my score, but I might be a little biased. Because I feel for other people who might not have as good of a score.
If we based it on student resumes, would we just get rid of the ACT and SAT, or would we keep them as just a normal test?
They could be optional, test optional, or they can take a more curriculum based, or they could also send in their student resumes with their transcripts.
Okay, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very much.